got here is a Benjamin Marauder 25 caliber. It's obviously taken apart, stock. Took it apart because I had a leak. I was going down to about 2500 psi in about 3 hours, and then on down to nothing overnight. So I tried the simple things first. I tried changing the O-rings. I believe there's an O-ring under here. I know there's one in here. That didn't help. So without buying a new gauge, and it could be that, and I could not see it, there's a little weep hole in this gauge here that evidently sometimes leaks. I put it in water and I didn't see any leakage out of there. So ruling out what I've done so far with the O-ring down into this gauge port, which sits right in the air tube right here, right behind the valve assembly. What I found was there's some rust on it. So I'm wondering if there was some debris that got caught in these O-rings possibly. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and reseal. Maybe I'll look at these O-rings really carefully and see if they're nicked or anything, or damaged, or there's any debris caught in them. And in fact, I see right here it is. So I'm going to have to replace this O-ring. And I'm going to clean it up, clean out the air tube, and then I'm going to air it back up and see if I don't have to buy a new gauge. I've never been into this gun. I'm not, I've been shooting air guns for the better part of my life. I recently got into the PCPs, probably 3 years ago, I believe, something like that. And I've been learning as I go along. I learned a lot. I've modified I did the mods on this and valve mods, and this is kind of my learning pistol, and I'm doing some pretty good FPE. I still need to tune it, give it a little better tune on it. But anyway, this is kind of my learner. I've also got a Samyang 50 cal, increased the power on. I got into that. I used to be a mechanic, so I'm not a stranger around tools. But this is a whole different ball game. It's pretty fun. So anyway, what I'm going to do is try to reseal this, and we're going to see if that works. If not, then the last thing is I'll have to buy a gauge. And I don't know if you can see inside this tube very well, but there is some debris in there. So I don't know if you can see that or not on the camera, but anyway, I'm going to clean that out and we'll see if we can get this thing sealed up here. Okay, one thing I am going to do is I'm going to deburr the inside of this gauge port, because when you slide this in, I suspect that maybe that's what boogered up this seal here. Alright, so what I'm going to use here is a little stone, and I'm going to deburr the inside of this very carefully just to get any rough edges off of it. Now what I'm going to do is get a Q-tip and see if that is rough. And it feels pretty rough. Anyway, for the final show here, what we'll do is we'll put a little rubbing compound in here. I don't know if you can see that or not. Pretty good. I'm looking down in the tube, and it looks to me like that edge is tapered pretty well. Any sharp edges, and no, it feels really smooth. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so we'll start reassembling. A lot of discussion on O-rings. I'm just going to try these El Cheapo ones. See how they fare. It's more or less for an experiment, and they're cheap. So let's see if I can find a size to fit. First of all, if you work on air guns, this tool is indispensable. It's just a dental pick. I'll tell you what, I use this a lot, and it's very handy for a multitude of things. One being O-ring removal. Oh yeah, this is pretty crusty in here. There's all kinds of stuff on that O-ring. I don't know if the lighting's good enough for you to see that or not, but it's rusty for sure. I'm glad that I did this, even if it doesn't fix it. It's good to get into the air tube and see if I had any water intrusion, and most likely that would be from hand pumping. I've had all of my air comes from scuba tanks from the dive shop, so there's no guarantee, but I'm pretty confident that air is dry, although I know you can't get all of the moisture out of it. It's got one little nick here that I don't like, so what I'm going to do is get some sandpaper, not your regular sandpaper. This is 1500 grit paper. I have a lot of this left over from when I used to do body work on cars and painting. Comes in handy for air guns and lots of other things as well. So there's a little nick here that I'm just going to touch up, just so it doesn't cut any O-rings when I put it on. Maybe a bit anal about this stuff, but I used to build engines, and the more you put into it, I found the less time you had to be taking it back apart. I'll go ahead and there's some gunk in here. I'll clean it with this dental pick. Again, yet another use for these dental instruments. I also like to go around the threads, clean out any gunk, or not gunk, actually it's Teflon tape. These threads are not the best. They're kind of rough, and I don't know if that was me maybe over torquing the valve or gauge stem, or it was just machined like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to burnish this gauge port assembly with some silicone diver's grease. And this is what you should use on anything high pressure air wise. You don't want to blow yourself up with a petroleum based product, and it does not work in high pressure air situations, so you don't want to get any of that in your air tubes at all. don't think I want to go in from this end because you got all kinds of holes and gouges and things like that. So we're going to go ahead and try to go through this end, although we do have threads on this end. So I don't know if you saw this, but I had to press this on the floor with this copper tube. And the battery died on the camera, so I'm not sure how much of this I got, but I don't think I'm going to re-record any of this because it's in there, as you can see. So what we're going to line up is okay, now I'm just going to put a little torque on these. Not too much. I didn't do anything to the inside of the hammer tube. It looks really smooth. You know, if it wasn't as polished, I would have probably polished that with the Dremel, but it looked pretty good, so I'm just going to leave it alone. And this thing really is really accurate. So went ahead and left it as is. Just a light coating. Now, the transfer port's already on, the seal's already in, so you got to make sure you line that up. Tell you what, I'm going to get a little, just a tad on there. I'm also going to wipe this off. This looks pretty nasty in here. Been sitting around for a few days, so dusty. This is actually my first time reassembling a Marauder. Done the pistol a few times. I really should get my T-handles, but these are really convenient, I find, especially in the field. But these are such delicate screws going into brass that you don't want to put too much torque on. Okay, now trigger assembly. Okay, she works. Okay. So a trick is if you don't have a wrench or something and don't want to use the Foster, you can put this on, tighten down the Allen screws here, and if it's stuck especially, you don't want to put that much pressure on this because it will unscrew. You can use this and tighten them down and use that to get your valve out of here, or your fill plug. Okay, so there's that. Now we've got to reinstall the gauge. And I guess we can do the barrel band as well. I put a little piece of plastic It was actually the plug that plugged something on the gun. I cannot remember. It might have been over the barrel, or maybe the... Anyway, it fit perfect on here. I don't know if it makes any difference or not, but I went ahead and did it. Seems to me it might prevent a little movement if it got banged around really hard. Try that. See if we can get that to seal up down in there. Little silicone. Again, I am no expert in any of these. You don't want to over tighten these, from what I understand, because it will strip the gauge port out. So I'm going to just line it up, and that's it right there. I think we can go ahead and give it a test fill and see if it's going to hold air. And this is live. Okay, so we're going to give it a fill here. I'll turn it over so we can watch the gauge. Let's see if you can see the gauge. Got it hooked up to the scuba tank over here. Go real slow. I'm only going to go up to about 2,500 PSI. I think that's all in my tank right now. And we'll see if it leaks. I don't hear any leaks. Last time when I did this, I could hear it leaking. So it's right at 2,500. So I'm just going to let it sit, see how it goes, and if it holds air, we'll put the stock back on and go from there. So it's been a while. I actually refilled this back up to 25 because the tube heated up, so I don't think I was getting an accurate reading. So it seems to be holding at 25. It's been about an hour. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that it's holding. I'm fairly confident that it is. What I'll do is I'll put the stock back on. I need to put a little ballast all on this. This gun is looking a little rusty here where it's been sitting around, so I'm going to clean it up before I put it back in stock. And then we'll air it up to 3,000 and we'll let it sit overnight, and we'll come back in the morning and check it. And the probe as well. I'd like to give that a little lubrication. I don't know, I do it pretty often. That O-ring gets a lot of friction there. Go up to 3,000 PSI. So we're right at 3,000 on the gauge on the Marauder. We're going to see if that remains the same. And this is no BS here, folks. I'm doing this for real. Okay, there's what we got on the gauge. Right at 3,000. So we'll come back and check this. Okay, it's the next day. And let's look at the gauge here. Looks like it's been holding at about 3,000 psi. All night. So it looks like the repair was successful. So we'll go ahead and scope it up, and we'll call that successful. All right.